The contract lay scattered across Marcus Chen's mahogany desk like confetti after a funeral, which in many ways it was. His funeral. 3 years of his life, 3 years of innovation, 3 years of believing that love and partnership meant something, all reduced to legal jargon that stripped him of everything he'd built. Rain pelted against the floor-to-ceiling windows of their Manhattan office. The gray October sky reflecting Marcus's mood as he stared at the documents that would erase his existence from InnovateTech, the company he'd founded in his cramped studio apartment, working 18-hour days fueled by instant coffee and the dream of revolutionizing cybersecurity. It's about to become someone else's empire. You can't do this, Elena. His voice cracked despite his efforts to maintain composure. This was our company, our dream. Elena Rodriguez didn't even look up from her phone, her perfectly manicured nails painted in what she called power red, tapping against its crystal case. The woman he'd fallen in love with during their MIT days, the brilliant engineer who'd helped him code their first algorithm in the library during those endless winter nights, now wore a Chanel suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. The transformation had been gradual, so subtle that Marcus hadn't noticed until it was too late. The Elena who used to work in torn jeans and oversized hoodies, would light up when discussing elegant code solutions, had been replaced by this polished stranger who spoke in corporate buzzwords and measured everything by market value. Dreams don't pay for penthouses in Manhattan, Marcus. Her voice carried the slight Puerto Rican accent that had once made his heart race when she whispered his name in the dark. Now it felt like ice in his veins. Victor's offer is too good to pass up. Technovault will triple our valuation overnight. Stared at the signature on the bottom of the partnership dissolution papers, her signature, written in the confident flourishes of someone who'd never looked back. The paperwork authorized the sale of InnovateTech to Victor Reeves, the tech mogul who'd been circling their startup like a vulture for months, making increasingly aggressive offers that they'd repeatedly declined, or rather that Marcus had declined. Apparently, Elena had been having very different conversations. Our valuation? Marcus's laugh was bitter, the sound echoing in the minimalist office that Elena had insisted on decorating. Gone were the whiteboards covered in algorithms, and the comfortable furniture where they used to brainstorm for hours. Chrome and glass now, as cold as their relationship had become. You mean your valuation? According to these papers, I never existed? Elena finally looked up, her dark eyes cold and calculating behind designer glasses she'd never needed before. You're being dramatic as usual. Victor's legal team found some irregularities in the original partnership agreement, apparently. Your contributions were classified as consultant work rather than founding partnership. The words hit him like a physical blow. Marcus grabbed the papers with trembling hands, scanning the legal language that twisted their shared history into lies. Every late night they'd spent coding together. Every breakthrough they'd celebrated with cheap champagne and paper cups. Every moment he'd believed they were building something together, all of it rewritten to erase his existence. The most devastating part was how plausible it all looked. The falsified documents showed him as a contractor hired to develop specific components, not a co-founder. Elena's MIT credentials were prominently featured, while his community college background was used to suggest he lacked the business acumen to be a true partner. This is fraud, Elena. You know it, I know it, and any court will what? She stood, smoothing her skirt with practiced elegance, every movement calculated for maximum psychological impact. Will believe a community college dropout over a Harvard MBA with a team of the best lawyers money can buy. Her smile was razor-sharp, a weapon honed to perfection. Victor's offer expires at midnight. Sign the consultant agreement, take your payout, and walk away quietly. Or fight us and lose everything. Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. The payout she mentioned, $50,000, was less than he'd invested of his own money into the company. Money scraped together from his savings, student loans, and a second mortgage on his parents' house. InnovateTech was worth $30 million now. Built on the AI algorithm he'd developed and the revolutionary security protocols they'd created together during those innocent early days. I trusted you, he whispered, the words barely audible over the rain that seemed to be washing away his entire world. Elena paused at the door. her hand on the brass handle that she'd insisted on installing because it projected success. A moment, her mask slipped, and he saw something that might have been regret flicker across her features. The woman who'd once promised they'd change the world together, who'd held him when he'd cried about his father's cancer diagnosis, who'd celebrated with him when their first major client signed on. Trust is a luxury neither of us can afford anymore, Marcus. In this world, you adapt or you die. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving him alone with the wreckage of his life and the sound of rain. Against glass that suddenly felt like the walls of a prison, Marcus collapsed into his chair, staring at the city lights below.
Ow.
There, Victor Reeves was preparing to add another trophy to his collection of conquered companies. Somewhere out there, Elena was probably celebrating her promotion to Vice President of Innovation, a title that should have been meaningless, because they'd always been partners. The algorithm that would make Victor rich was still running on the servers in the next room, processing data and protecting clients who would never know that the technology keeping them safe had been stolen from its creator. Marcus had built something beautiful, something that could genuinely make the world safer. And now, it would be just another asset in Victor Reeves's empire. As midnight approached and the deadline loomed, Marcus realized he had two choices: sign the papers and accept his role as a footnote in someone else's success story, or fight a battle he couldn't possibly win. Either way, the company he'd built was gone, and the woman he'd loved had chosen fame and fortune over everything they'd shared. He signed the papers at 11:58 p.m., his hand shaking as he wrote his name for the last time as a member of InnovateTech. 2 minutes later, Marcus Chen officially ceased to exist in the world of technology entrepreneurship. 6 months later, Marcus sat in a cramped studio apartment in Queens, surrounded by empty takeout containers and the blue glow of multiple computer screens he'd bought secondhand from desperate college students. The space smelled of stale coffee and broken dreams, a far cry from the Manhattan office that had once felt like his castle. His savings were gone, depleted by legal fees from a battle he'd ultimately lost in spectacular fashion. Elena and Victor had won completely. InnovateTech was now a subsidiary of Technovault, valued at $50 million in the acquisition. Elena had been named Vice President of Innovation with a 7-figure salary, stock options, and a corner office overlooking Central Park. The tech blogs had hailed her as a rising star and the brilliant mind behind the revolutionary CyberGuard algorithms. The same algorithm Marcus had developed in his parents' garage 3 years earlier. The tech world was smaller than people realized, and word traveled fast through the interconnected network of investors, entrepreneurs, and engineers. No one wanted to hire the programmer who'd been let go for cause from his own company. The few interviews he'd managed to land, mostly through old college connections who felt sorry for him, had ended abruptly when his potential employers received calls from Technovault's legal department. The calls always conveyed the same message. Marcus Chen had violated his non-disclosure agreements and was a litigation risk. Hiring him would result in immediate legal action. It was a brilliant strategy, effectively blacklisting him from the industry without any proof of wrongdoing. Marcus ran his hands through his unkempt hair, staring at the lines of code flowing across his screen. He'd been working on something new, something that could revolutionize cybersecurity in ways that would make his original algorithm look like child's play. The breakthrough had come to him during one of his sleepless nights, a moment of clarity that showed him how to create truly adaptive security systems. But what was the point? He had no resources, no team, no way to protect his work from being stolen again. The new algorithm represented months of work, thousands of lines of elegant code that could detect and neutralize cyber threats in real time. In the right hands, it could protect hospitals from ransomware attacks, prevent election interference, and safeguard the personal data of millions of people. In Victor Reeves's hands, it would just be another revenue stream, a sharp knock at his door broke through his spiral of self-pity. Marcus frowned. He wasn't expecting anyone, and the few friends he'd had in the tech world had distanced themselves after his public fall from grace. His landlord had already collected this month's rent, and in the pizza delivery, I knew to leave orders outside the door with a text notification. He opened the door to find a woman in her early 30s with short auburn hair that caught the hallway. Light and intelligent green eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She wore a simple black coat over dark jeans. And there was something about her posture that suggested both confidence and caution, like someone who had learned to be careful but refused to be afraid. Marcus Chen. Her voice was warm but professional, with the kind of clarity that suggested she was used to asking difficult questions. Depends on who's asking. Marcus was acutely aware of his appearance and shaven, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt he'd slept in, probably smelling of the desperation. That had become his constant companion. She pulled out a business card, holding it between two fingers like a weapon. The card was simple, elegant. Sarah Mitchell, investigative journalist, Tech Tribune. Marcus had read her articles. She had a reputation for fearless reporting on corporate corruption and technology ethics. I'd like to talk to you about TechnoVault. Marcus's blood ran cold. Last thing he needed was more negative publicity. I have nothing to say to the press. What if I told you that you're not Victor Reeves's first victim? Sarah stepped closer, lowering her voice to just above a whisper. What if I told you I have evidence that TechnoVault has been systematically stealing technology from smaller companies through fraudulent legal maneuvers? Marcus hesitated, his hands still on the door. Why should I trust you? For all I know, you work for them. Sarah reached into her coat and pulled out a tablet, swiping to a video file with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this before. The screen showed Elena and Victor in what appeared to be a private office. Their voices clear despite the grainy quality of the hidden camera footage. The Chen algorithm is the key to everything, Elena was saying, her voice carrying the excitement she used to reserve for their late-night coding sessions. Once we integrate it into the Vault Secure platform, we'll control 60% of the cybersecurity market within 18 months. Victor's reply was chilling in its casual cruelty, and Elena's laugh was sharp, bitter, irrelevant. The legal team has already ensured he has no recourse. He'll be discredited and forgotten within a year. The community college background makes it easy. People expect someone like him to fail eventually. Marcus felt his knees go weak. Sarah caught his arm, her touch surprisingly gentle for someone who'd just delivered such a devastating blow. Are 12 other companies, Marcus? 12 other innovators who were crushed the same way you were. Brilliant people who thought they were building partnerships, only to discover they were being systematically harvested. Her eyes blazed with the kind of righteous anger Marcus had forgotten existed. But here's the thing I think we can stop. Sarah's apartment was the antithesis of Marcus's chaos organized. Clean with walls covered in whiteboards filled with flowcharts and connections drawn in different colored markers.
Ow.
It looked like the lair of someone building a case too. Take down a monster, which Marcus realized was exactly what it was. Coffee. She asked, already moving toward a kitchen that actually looked like it was used for cooking real food instead of reheating takeout. Marcus nodded, still processing what he'd seen in the video. How did you get that footage? I've been investigating TechnoVault for 8 months, Sarah called from the kitchen, the sound of grinding coffee beans filling the apartment. It started when a friend of mine, David Kim, lost his startup to them using the exact same playbook they used on you. She returned with 2 real ceramic mugs, not the disposable cups Marcus had been living on, and settled into a chair. Across from him, Marcus noticed she moved with the fluid grace of someone who stayed in shape, probably through running or martial arts. There was an intensity in her eyes that reminded him of Elena during their early days, but where Elena's intensity had been cold and calculating, Sarah's burned with something warmer, purpose. David's company developed revolutionary battery technology that could have changed electric vehicle manufacturing forever. Sarah continued, her voice taking on the careful tone of someone who'd told this story before but still felt its weight. 3 years of work, millions in development costs, breakthrough patents that could have made him rich and helped save the environment. All stolen through legal manipulation and a romantic relationship with a woman who never loved him. She gestured to one of her whiteboards, which showed a photograph of a young Korean-American man with kind eyes and an enthusiastic smile. David Kim, MIT graduate, former Tesla engineer, inventor of the Kim cell battery system. He ended up... She paused, her jaw tightening. He ended up taking his own life 6 months ago. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with the October weather. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes blazing, with an intensity that made Marcus sit up straighter. Victor Reeves has built $100 million empire on the broken dreams of innovators like you and David. He finds brilliant people who are naive about business, uses romantic relationships or false partnerships to get close to their work, then destroys them legally and financially when he's extracted everything valuable. She gestured to another whiteboard, which showed a complex web of connections between Technovault and various defunct startups. Names, dates, estimated values, and photographs created a tapestry of systematic destruction that took Marcus's breath away. 12 companies in 3 years, Marcus. Total estimated value of stolen intellectual property is over $300 million, and that's just what I've been able to document. Marcus studied the board, his programmer's mind automatically, looking for patterns in the data. Elena wasn't his first plant. Victor has a type, brilliant, beautiful women with impressive credentials and flexible morals. Elena Rodriguez is just the latest in a long line of what I call honey trap engineers. Sarah pulled out a thick folder and spread photos across her coffee table. Meet the others. The faces stared up at Marcus as different women, but all sharing the same polished, predatory beauty that had once captivated him. Next to each photo was a dossier, educational background, the company they'd infiltrated, the technology they'd helped steal, and the fate of their victims. Jennifer Walsh, Harvard MBA, had targeted a medical device startup. Lisa Chen, no relation, Stanford computer science PhD, had destroyed a social media analytics company. The list went on. How do you know all this? Sarah's smile was grim, the expression of someone who'd learned terrible truths about the world. Because I used to work for them. The admission hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Marcus set down his coffee mug, suddenly wary, his hand moving unconsciously toward his phone. Relax, Sarah said, reading his expression with the skill of someone trained to notice micro-expressions. I was their head of communications for 2 years. I thought I was working for a legitimate company that happened to be very successful at acquisitions. I wrote press releases about strategic partnerships and technology integrations, without realizing I was helping cover up systematic theft. And they let you go? They tried to destroy me the same way they destroyed you. Sarah touched a small scar on her temple that Marcus hadn't noticed before. Fortunately, I'd been documenting everything without realizing it. Every press release, every internal memo, every acquisition strategy document. When they came for me, I had enough leverage to negotiate a quiet exit. She pulled up her shirt slightly, revealing another scar along her ribs, though not before. Victor made it clear what would happen if I ever spoke publicly about what I knew. He's not just a thief, Marcus. He's a sociopath who enjoys the destruction as much as the profit. Marcus felt something shift inside him, a spark of the fire that had once driven him to build something revolutionary. For months, he'd been drowning in self-pity and defeat. Now, looking at Sarah's evidence and hearing her story, he felt anger, beginning to burn away the depression. What do you need from me? Your algorithm, Sarah said simply. The real one. The version they stole was impressive, but you and I both know it wasn't complete. Victor's been trying to crack the remaining elements for months, but without the core architecture insights that only exist in your head, Vault Secure is vulnerable. She was right. Rakusa had never documented the most crucial elements of his security algorithm, keeping the final layers of encryption and adaptive responses in his memory alone. It had been a paranoid precaution born from growing up poor and learning not to trust anyone completely, a habit that had turned out to be prophetic. You want me to finish it? I want us to finish it together, Sarah corrected, her voice carrying a conviction that made Marcus believe impossible things might be possible, but not for them. For us, and for everyone else, Victor Reeves has destroyed. We're going to build something so revolutionary, so powerful, that it will expose their stolen technology for the inferior copies they are. Marcus looked around the apartment again, seeing it with new eyes. This wasn't just a home-it. It was a command center, a fortress, a place where someone fought back against the monsters that consumed innovators' dreams. And then, Sarah's smile was sharp as a blade. Then we destroy them. Over the next 3 months, Marcus and Sarah worked with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Sarah's apartment became their headquarters, transformed into a high-tech bunker filled with encrypted servers and quantum computers purchased with money from Sarah's secret Technovault severance package money she'd demanded as the price of her silence. The work schedule was brutal. 18-hour days. Meals eaten while coding, sleep snatched in 3-hour intervals. But Marcus had forgotten what it felt like to have a true partner, someone who challenged his ideas, caught his mistakes, and pushed him to be better. Sarah's background in communications perfectly complemented his technical expertise, and her investigative skills had uncovered vulnerabilities in Technovault's infrastructure that he never would have found alone. The beauty of it, Marcus explained, as he showed Sarah the latest iteration of their algorithm on a cold December evening. Snow falling past the windows, is that it doesn't just secure data, actively hunts for attempts to steal or manipulate. Every time someone tries to break the encryption, the system learns and adapts, becoming stronger. Sarah studied the code flowing across the screen, her brow furrowed in concentration. She'd learned enough programming over the past months to understand the elegant architecture Marcus had created. It's like an immune system for information. Exactly. And here's the best part. Marcus pulled up another window showing a simulation he'd been running for weeks. I've been testing it against VaultSecure's current protocols. Their system, built on my stolen algorithm, has 17 critical vulnerabilities that they don't even know exist. Our new system could crack their encryption in under 4 hours, which means... Marcus's grin was wolfish, the expression of someone who'd find a way to fight back against impossible odds. Which means we can prove that Victor Reeves has been selling Swiss cheese to his clients and calling it Fort Knox. Every company that's paying millions for VaultSecure protection is actually vulnerable to attacks that a talented hacker could execute from their bedroom. Their work had drawn them closer in ways that surprised Marcus. Unlike his relationship with Elena, which had been built on shared ambition and physical attraction, his connection with Sarah felt deeper rooted in mutual respect, shared purpose, and a growing trust that had been forged through adversity. Late one night in January, as they debugged a particularly stubborn piece of code that controlled the algorithm's adaptive responses, Sarah looked up from her laptop and caught him watching. Her what? She asked, self-consciously tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I'm just grateful, Marcus said, the words coming out more vulnerable than he'd intended. 6 months ago I thought my life was over. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. Sarah's cheeks flushed slightly, a reaction that made her look younger, like the journalism student she'd once been before the world taught her to be careful. You gave yourself that reason. I just helped you see it. The moment stretched. Between them, charged with possibility and the kind of tension that had nothing to do with their war against Victor Reeves, Marcus found himself leaning forward, drawn by the intelligence in her eyes and the way she looked at him like he was someone worth saving. Then Sarah's laptop chimed with an alert, breaking the spell. Someone's trying to hack our system, she said, her fingers flying over the keyboard with practiced efficiency. Marcus moved behind her chair, leaning over her shoulder to watch the data streams flowing across her screen. He could smell her shampoo something, floral and clean, that made him think of spring mornings and new beginnings, and feel the warmth of her body through her sweater. It's a sophisticated attack, he murmured, his breath stirring her hair. Multiple vectors, adaptive algorithms, quantum encryption breaking tools. This isn't some script kiddie or random criminal group. Can you trace it? Marcus was already pulling up his tracking protocols, his fingers dancing across the keyboard as he initiated pursuit algorithms he'd designed specifically for this scenario. Give me 5 minutes. The trace led them through a maze of proxy servers and encrypted tunnels, bouncing through servers in 12 different countries, as the attackers tried to hide their digital footprints. But Marcus's algorithm was designed for exactly this kind of pursuit, using machine learning techniques that could predict and counter evasion strategies in real time. When the final connection resolved, both of them stared at the screen in shock. The attack was coming from Technovault's headquarters in Manhattan. They know, Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of their servers. Let them know, Marcus said, his voice hard with Resolve that had been building for months. It's time to show them what we've built. He pulled up another terminal and began typing, his fingers moving with the confidence of someone who'd finally found his weapon. I'm going to send them a little message. What kind of message? Marcus smiled, and for the first time since Elena's betrayal, it was the smile of someone who held all the cards. It's a kind that lets them know their stolen algorithm just became obsolete. The Technovault annual shareholders meeting was held in the ballroom of the Mandarin Oriental, a glittering affair attended by tech luminaries, venture capitalists, and financial journalists. The event was designed to project success and innovation. With holographic displays showing Technovaults, growth statistics, and testimonials from satisfied clients, Victor Reeves stood at the podium in a perfectly tailored Italian suit, his silver hair and confident smile radiating the kind of success that made people want to invest their life savings in his vision. At 45, he had the bearing of a man who'd never been told no, never been denied anything he wanted to take. Vault Secure represents the pinnacle of cybersecurity innovation, Victor was saying, gesturing to a massive screen displaying impressive statistics about breach prevention and client satisfaction. Our proprietary algorithms developed by our world-class team, led by Vice President Elena Rodriguez, have achieved a 99.97% success rate in preventing data breaches. In the back of the ballroom, Marcus and Sarah watched from behind the cameras of 3 major tech news outlets. Sarah had spent weeks cultivating relationships with journalists who'd been suspicious of Technovault's meteoric rise, and tonight, they would get the story of a lifetime. Elena stood near the stage in a stunning red dress that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly rent. Her smile, perfect and practiced as she basked in the recognition that should have been shared. Been featured on the cover of Tech Entrepreneur magazine the previous month. Hailed as a visionary leader reshaping cybersecurity. Phase 1, Sarah whispered into her earpiece. Connected to a team of ethical hackers she'd recruited from the victims of Technovaults. Previous acquisitions? Marcus smiled grimly as he triggered their first surprise from a tablet hidden in his jacket. Every screen in the ballroom, from the main presentation display to the tablets carried by attendees, suddenly showed the same image, a detailed breakdown of Vault Secure's 17 critical vulnerabilities. Complete with real-time demonstrations of how each could be exploited, the room erupted in confused murmurs as Victor frantically gestured to his technical team. On stage, Elena appeared at his side, her face pale as she recognized Marcus's signature, comma style, in the displayed algorithms. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor's voice boomed through the sound system, though he was no longer at the microphone. Sarah had hacked their audio system with techniques learned from her investigation. What you're seeing tonight is the true face of Technovo, a company built on theft, fraud, and the systematic destruction of innovation. Marcus stood, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom's acoustics. My name is Marcus Chen, and 3 years ago, Victor Reeves and Elena Rodriguez stole my company and destroyed my life. Tonight, you'll learn that I wasn't their first victim, and if we don't stop them, I won't be their last. Security guards moved toward Marcus, but Sarah was ready. Phase 2, she said into her earpiece. Every smartphone in the room began playing. The same video, the hidden camera footage of Elena and Victor discussing their plans to steal Marcus's algorithm and destroy him. Then came more videos, dozens of them, showing similar conversations about other victims. David Kim discussing his battery technology. Jennifer Walsh revealing medical device secrets. Lisa Chen explaining social media algorithms. The ballroom descended into chaos. Investors were shouting questions, journalists were frantically taking notes and streaming live video, and Victor's security team was fighting through crowds of people trying to reach the exits or get closer to the unfolding drama. Elena had made her way toward Marcus, her face a mask of fury and desperation. The composed executive had been replaced by someone fighting for survival. You don't know what you're doing, she hissed when she reached him. Victor has connections you can't imagine. Politicians, judges, law enforcement will destroy you. For this, he already destroyed me, Marcus replied calmly, feeling a peace he hadn't experienced since their relationship ended. The difference is, now I have nothing left to lose. We have nothing left to lose, Sarah corrected, peering at his side with the confidence of someone who'd spent months preparing for this moment. She faced Elena with journalist's directness. "Hello, Elena. I'm Sarah Mitchell, the journalist, who's been documenting your crimes for the past year. It's mainly you're about to be famous for all the wrong reasons." Elena's eyes darted between them, calculating odds and options with the desperation of someone watching their carefully constructed world collapse. "Whatever they're paying you," she said to Sarah, "Victor can triple it, quadruple it. Name your price." Sarah's laugh was sharp and bitter. "You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. It's about justice for David Kim, for Marcus, for all the innovators you've destroyed in pursuit of profit." As if summoned by her words, FBI agents began flooding into the ballroom. Sarah had spent weeks building relationships with federal investigators who'd been quietly building their own case against Technovault. Tonight's public revelation would provide the final evidence they needed to act on charges of conspiracy, wire fraud, and racketeering. Victor Reeves, Agent Catherine Torres's voice cut through the chaos, her badge gleaming under the ballroom chandeliers. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, wire fraud, in violation of federal racketeering statutes." The crowd pressed closer as Victor was led away in handcuffs, his carefully crafted image crumbling in real time. Elena tried to slip away in the confusion, but more agents were waiting by the exits. Elena Rodriguez, another agent, called out, "You're also under arrest as a co-conspirator in an ongoing federal investigation." As the handcuffs clicked around Elena's wrists, she looked back at Marcus one last time. The mask had finally fallen completely, revealing something that might have been regret, or simply the bitterness of someone who'd gambled everything and lost. "I hope it was worth it," Marcus said quietly, loud enough for only her to hear. Elena's. The reply was barely a whisper. "I thought it would be." 2 years later, Marcus stood in the lobby of CyberGuard Solutions, watching through floor-to-ceiling windows as software engineers. Security analysts and investigators worked in the gleaming offices beyond. The company he and Sarah had built from the ashes of his destruction had grown beyond his wildest dreams, not just in financial success, but in purpose. The algorithm they'd developed during those intense months had revolutionized cybersecurity, creating adaptive systems that could evolve faster than any attack. Major corporations, government agencies, non-profit organizations had lined up to license their technology, generating enough revenue to fund their larger mission, protecting innovators from predators like Victor Reeves. "The Morrison account just signed," Sarah said, appearing at his side with a tablet showing their latest contract. "That's every major bank on the East Coast now, using our protection algorithms." Marcus smiled, slipping his arm around her waist. They'd been married for 6 months now. Small ceremony attended by the 12 other entrepreneurs whose lives Victor Reeves had tried to destroy. Most of them had rebuilt their companies with CyberGuard's help and investment, creating a network of innovation that was transforming the tech industry. "Any word on the trial?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer from Sarah's satisfied expression. "Victor got 15 years federal prison. Elena got 8, with possibility of parole in 5. Sarah's voice carried satisfaction, but not vengeance. "The Victims' Restitution Fund is going to help a lot of people start over.
Ow.
David Kim's family is using their settlement to establish a scholarship for young inventors." Through the window, Marcus could see their newest hire, David Kim's younger brother, James, working with the team that had recovered and restored the battery technology that had cost David his life. Kim Battery Solutions was now a subsidiary of CyberGuard, and James had dedicated his work to his brother's memory. The technology that had been stolen and suppressed was finally reaching the market, promising to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles and renewable energy storage. It was exactly the kind of innovation the world needed, and exactly the kind of breakthrough that predators like Victor Reeves had been systematically destroying. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked quietly, following his gaze to the bustling office beyond. "The years you lost, the pain you went through, the betrayal?" Marcus considered the question seriously, as he did whenever she asked it. The betrayal had nearly destroyed him, and there were still nights when he woke up angry at how naive he'd been to trust Elena and Victor. The depression had been real, the financial ruin devastating, the professional humiliation complete. But looking around at what they'd built, at the lives they'd saved, and the innovations they'd protected, he found he couldn't regret the journey that had brought him here. "No," he said finally, the certainty in his voice surprising even him. "That pain led me to you, and to this." Elena chose fame and fortune over everything real. We chose each other, and we chose to build something that matters. Sarah smiled, the same expression that had convinced him to trust her in that cramped Queen's apartment 2 years ago. "So what's next for us, Mr. Chen?" Marcus pulled her closer, looking out at the city beyond their windows, a city full of dreamers and innovators who deserve protection from predators like Victor Reeves. In the distance, he could see the Technovault building, now mostly empty. As the company collapsed under the weight of federal charges and civil lawsuits, "We keep building," he said, feeling the weight of responsibility and the lightness of purpose in equal measure. "We keep protecting the people who dare to dream, and we make sure that no one else has to go through what we went through to find their way home." As the sun set over Manhattan, casting golden light through the offices of CyberGuard Solutions, Marcus Chen knew that sometimes the greatest victories came not from avoiding betrayal, but from rising above it stronger, wiser, and surrounded by people worth fighting for. The woman who had saved his life stood beside him, not as a replacement for what he'd lost, but as a partner in building something infinitely better than anything he could have imagined in his darkest hours. Together, they had turned his fall into the foundation of their rise, proving that love built on mutual respect and shared purpose was stronger than any empire built on theft and betrayal. In the end, Elena had been wrong about one thing: trust wasn't a luxury they couldn't afford. It was the foundation upon which everything worthwhile was built. What did you think of this thrilling journey? Share your favorite moment in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest tales. What kind of story would you like to hear next?